Adam Bartholomew, a 20-year-old first-time participant in the Harvard-Berklee dual program, has created a documentary called PANAZZ The Story, chronicling the lifespan of local pan ensemble PANAZZ, which was formed in 1993 and led back then by his uncle Barry Bartholomew. The documentary, which is currently being shown at the 2023 Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, is a captivating, informative piece of a small pan side from Trinidad and Tobago that produced genre-blending music and albums and toured some of the most prestigious halls in the world. Bartholomew grew up hearing tales of how great PANAZZ was, so when it came time to creating a piece for his school project, they were his first thought.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. What inspired this was that, I was never around during the days of PANAZZ, but growing up and having my uncle, Barry Bartholomew, who was the leader of PANAZZ, I've grown up hearing stories from my family and from him about PANAZZ and how great they were. And I've listened to their music because they have some of the best steel pan ensemble recordings. So I've just grown up listening to that and I've always admired them. So last semester at Harvard, I took a musicology course on musical ensembles and musical genres that have pushed boundaries in music and in society and sort of defied social expectations and the norms at the time. And so for that class, we had to do a project on a band or an artist of our choice. And so my mind just shot straight to PANAZZ, because they really helped to elevate the status of the instrument. And so they were groundbreaking, which made it perfect for this project. And actually, funny story, we got given the project description in March, and actually the month before, in February, I went to Boston Symphony Hall to see one of my favorite cellists, Sheku Kani Mason, playing. And I sent pictures to my family group chat. And it was after doing that that my uncle sent me pictures of when PANAZZ actually performed there. So being in that prestigious hall and then realizing PANAZZ was there, I think that was just the catalyst which made me realize that, wow, PANAZZ was something different. And so to make a documentary about them was not only necessary, but something really special for me. Yeah, so thankfully everybody's still alive because it's only about 20 years after the band disbanded. So it started off in March. I sent a message to my uncle Barry saying how I wanted to make this movie for a school project and asked if he could help me put together interviews. So I came home for spring break, which was just a week, and I interviewed my uncle in his kitchen because he's a chef now. And then he got in contact with Dane Gulston, who's the star tenor player, Natasha Joseph, who played double seconds, and Donnell Thomas, who's a 7-year-old playing bass with PANAZZ. And so with those 4 key members, we did interviews, and those sort of made up the overall content of the actual movie itself. And then incorporated into all that, I got all of the PANAZZ music from my uncle, which I'm really grateful for. And that formed the background music, or the score, so to speak. And it was so much fun interweaving that with the interviews so that it's a fully immersive experience where you're not only learning about PANAZZ through the dialogue, but also experiencing them in a very intimate way. After March, I spent the next 2 months, whenever I had a chance in school, editing late at night and that sort of thing. And I finished it just in time for the deadline to submit. And at that same time, I sent it to my uncle, and he watched it, and his first reaction was just tears from the word go, as soon as he pressed play, because there's something special about the introduction, which y'all would see. And so I think that just really brought back all these memories for him. And he just got on board with it and said, this could really be taken to a wider audience. So we worked together and we got it into the film festival, thankfully. And since getting it into that, we've worked together on refining it, adding in some more interviews with some of the other players, and just enhancing it even further, because of course when you're making a movie, you could always make it better. So we just worked right up until we had to submit it to the festival to keep improving it, and that was really a special journey as well. I've sort of been dreaming for the day in all the time I spent editing and feeling all the joy in the little moments where I'd create like a nice thing between like the music and the band performing and them talking. There are all these little magical moments. And so I've just been waiting for the day that it could be shared. And last night was that day. We had the premiere, we had so many special guests in the pan world, in the cultural world, in the music world coming, including some of my old music teachers like Dr. Pat from Holistic, Miss Nobby from Fatima, Mr. Roy Edwards who taught me pan, and the list goes on. All of them were there for supporting, and just to hear their response about how deeply it impacted them was so meaningful to me. So my dad has been making like movies, home movies, little magic trick videos, carnival videos, like since before I was born. So I've always grown up in like seeing him doing those things with like cameras, then taking the video, putting it on the computer, editing it. So I've always been exposed to that. But where I really got into it at a more deeper level was during the pandemic, because as a musician, when the pandemic came, we were no longer able to perform live. So to adapt to that, like I had to learn how to edit music videos. And so filmmaking and editing was never like the thing itself for me, but just a means of expressing something else, whether that's information for a class or music. And just like for this project, the focus itself wasn't really the filmmaking aspect of it, but just conveying a story. So I've always seen filmmaking as just that. As much as I love movies, it's always just been a means of expression for me. But now this whole thing with getting it into the film festival and being labeled as like a filmmaker has made me start to think more about the actual film aspect of film itself, which is something I'm actually really passionate about and hope to do more of in the future. Yeah, so I just completed my first year in the Harvard-Berklee College of Music dual degree program, which is this really awesome program that's offered for students who are both passionate about music and whatever aspect of academia. So in my case, I'm interested in biology, molecular and cellular biology, so I'm studying that at Harvard while studying actually film scoring at Berkeley. So I'm very passionate and curious about the connection between music and how it enhances film in bringing out emotions and storytelling. Well, I think balance has a very like positive and soothing connotation to it, but in reality, to find balance requires like a lot of input of energy, and like a lot of the times it's a lot of stress, to be honest, but it helps to just have like an inner motivation that, like, you know, gets me up in the morning and gets me going, and to have a passion just helped me to keep going through all that like struggle, I guess, you know. Well, I just think like God has like always been like by my side, and in difficult times especially, I'd always like say a prayer to just like guide me through, and especially in like difficult situations where I don't know what's the right thing to do in this case. It's those times in particular that I would like go to God for help. And of course, being a Fatima boy, under Father Gregory's leadership as principal, he I think inspired me, and I'm sure I could speak for everybody else, in just the kind of person he is, to just have that faith, not only in God, but also faith in everybody else. He had such a tremendous faith in like me, always pushing me to do things musically and as a leader, as the head prefect as well. And so I'm tremendously thankful to him. And also just the reinforcement of our motto, Nintendo Vinces, by striving you shall conquer. I think that has like become ingrained in my soul almost, so that if you wanna like accomplish something, no matter how difficult it is, if you keep striving, you can make it. So yeah, faith and Fatima are like ingrained in my soul. Yes, I do. I have one older brother, Luke, who's actually studying architectural engineering now at the University of Miami. And so he is kind of like me, also into like art and also the science side of things. And so I guess the architectural engineering brings those two things together. And actually, he designed this poster, so I'm glad you mentioned him. I just asked him one night if he could put something together because I'd seen some of the work he had done, and then he made this thing, and I just think it's epic. So I'm so thankful to him. So this has really been like a whole family project. PANAZZ itself was a family project, and this itself also too. So I'm really thankful that he was able to get involved and use his artistic talents as well. My mom is just, I can't pin down one thing in particular that she did, but like, I mean, everything that me and my brother are today is because of her. From like just like the way I am, like personality wise, with regards to my virtues, how I treat other people. She's like one of the most generous people I know. And like, for instance, she's a breastfeeding counselor. And so the number of like women she's helped with breastfeeding, I know this is going off topic a little bit, is just inspiring to see. And it's not for money or anything. It's purely from her heart to make an impact. And so being around somebody who's like that all my life has, I think, inspired me subconsciously to do the same. Always think about how I could make an impact and what I'm passionate about. Well, I don't know if I have any plans, and I also don't know like if I'm going to wing it, but I think with any kind of project like this, it has to be something that sort of comes to you. Again, talking about faith and God, I really think there's some kind of spiritual thing that has to come through you to make you realize, okay, this is something that I need to highlight or depict through film, because filmmaking, as y'all probably know, is a really difficult process. So you need to know going into it that this is something you're passionate about. So I don't have any plans specifically of what that may be, but I'm just open and ready for the possibility of that coming. And yeah, to keep going and keep building on what I've started here would be something really awesome.